Welcome everyone. Today we'll be discussing on the topic forces, more specifically the resultant of forces. Now, discussing resultant of forces, the sum of two forces or more forces acting at a point is called the resultant. And normally to be able to get this resultant, if it's just two forces, because we are focusing on just two forces in this topic, we apply the parallelogram law of composition of two forces, which states that if two forces acting at a point are represented in magnitude and direction by two adjacent sides of a parallelogram, then the resultant of the two forces is represented in magnitude and direction by the diagonal of the parallelogram drawn from the point of action of the two forces. Now basically, if we have two forces, the resultant will be a straight line drawn from the point where the two forces meet themselves. That is, it will look more like the diagonal of a parallelogram. We complete our parallelogram and we use our normal geometric formula to get our resultant. Now, a typical diagram for two forces T and S acting at a point X with resultant arrow is represented by the complete parallelogram as shown on the screen. So we can see T, we can see S, we can see the resultant. Now to get arrow, normally we are supposed to use sine rule. You can use any other geometric method you can use, but for the case of this topic we are using cosine rule. You can also use sine rule if that will work, depending on which part of the question you are asked and which angle you have and which forces, depending on what you have. You can use sine rule, you can use cosine rule, you can use Pythagoras theorem, just like that. So basically, using cosine rule states that arrow square, which is your resultant, will be equals to t square plus s square minus 2 times t times s times cos in bracket 180 minus theta. Our first question is from NECO 2003, and it states that find the resultant of the forces 7 Newton and 11 Newton with angle 45 degree between them, correct to 2 decimal place, and we are given the options. Now our very first step is to sketch out our forces, and doing so we get this diagram as shown on your screen. Now our resultant will be using cosine rule to get our resultant. So our arrow square will be equals to 7 square plus 11 square minus 2 times 7 times 11 cos in bracket 180 minus 45, which should be equals to 49 plus 121 minus 154 cos 135, which should also be equals to 170 plus 108.89. Now adding this up, arrow square will be equals to 278.89 and arrow will be equals to the square root of 278.89, which is approximately 16.7 Newton. We have another question from NECO, which states that find the resultant of forces 8 Newton and 10 Newton inclined at an angle 120 degree to each other, and we are also given the option. Now our first step is to sketch our diagram, and when we sketch our diagram we come up with something as shown on your screen. And as usual, we are going to be looking for our resultant using cosine rule. Now doing so, arrow square will be equals to 8 square plus 10 square minus 2 times 8 times 10 cos in bracket 180 minus 120, which is simplified to be equals to 64 plus 100 minus 160 cos 60, which should be equals to 164 minus 80 cos minus 160 cos 60 is actually minus 80. So therefore arrow square will be equals to 164 minus 80, which is equals to 84, and arrow will be equals to the square root of 84, which you can simplify to be equals to the square root of 4 times 21, which is equals to 2 root 21. Remembering our unit Newton, so our final answer is 2 root 21 Newton. Our next question states that find the magnitude of the resultant of two forces 6 Newton and 8 Newton acting at 240 degree to each other. Now sketching our diagram, we get the figure as shown, and we calculate resultant arrow using cosine rule. So therefore arrow square will be equals to 6 square plus 8 square minus 2 times 6 times 8 cos in bracket 180 minus 120, which will be equals to 36 plus 64 minus 96 cos in bracket 60. Simplifying further, it will be equals to 100, which is 36 plus 64 minus 96 in bracket 0.5, because cos 60 is equals to 0.5, which should be equals to 100 minus 48. 96 times 0.5 is 48, which should make arrow square to be equals to 100 minus 48, which is equals to 52, and arrow will be equals to the square root of 52, which you can simplify further to be equals to the square root of 4 times 13, because 4 times 13 is 52, which will be equals to 2 root 13 Newton. Now we have a question for WAEC that states that the angle between two forces of magnitude 8 Newton and 5 Newton is 120 degree. Find in Newton magnitude of their resultant. Now our very first step is to sketch our diagram, and as usual we are going to be looking for our resultant using cosine rule. Doing so, arrow square will be equals to 8 square plus 5 square minus 2 times 8 times 5 cos in bracket 180 minus 120, which will be equals to 64 plus 25 minus 80 cos 60, which will be equals to 89 minus 40. So therefore arrow square is equals to 49, and arrow will be equals to the square root of 49, which is equals to 7 Newton, and our correct option is D. Our final question is from November 2003, and it states that the resultant of forces S Newton and 4 Newton is 12 Newton. If the resultant makes an angle of 30 degrees with the force 4 Newton, find the value of S. N is equals to Newton. Now in our solution, we first sketch our diagram, and when we do that, we get the sketch as shown on the screen. Now in ABDE, we are going to be using that triangle to look for S using our cosine rule. Doing so, S square will be equals to 12 square plus 4 square minus 2 times 12 times 4 cos 30, which will be equals to 144 plus 16 minus 96 cos 30, which will then be equals to 160 minus 83.14. So therefore S square will be equals to 76.86, and S will be equals to the square root of 76.86, which is equals to 8.767 Newton and approximately 8.8 Newton. So our final answer is C. Here are some exercises for you to try your hands on at home. And for more insight on this topic, you can check out our Hidden Facts Further Mathematics textbook. You can get the hard copy at bookshops, or if you are interested in the soft copy, you can get it at the website on the bottom of the screen. Thank you.